Dobrý den, dámy a pánové. Já vás vítám na dnešní panelové diskuzi s názvem Klimaticky neutrální města potřebují silné partnery, kde se budeme bavit hodně o roli víceúrovňové spolupráce. Jsem moc ráda, že tahle diskuze se koná právě na veletrhu Urbis, který propojuje lídry, inovátory a zástupce veřejné správy s cílem společně hledat řešení pro lepší budoucnost našich měst. Hlavní téma letošního Urbisu je jasné. Transformace měst tak, aby byla inteligentní, udržitelná, inkluzivní. Přitom je taky jasné, že města tohle všechno nemůžou zvládnout sama. Zelená transformace už dávno není jenom otázkou technologií nebo regulace, je především otázkou partnerství mezi městy a státem, mezi veřejným a soukromým sektorem a také napříč jednotlivými úrovněmi řízení. A právě proto jsme dnes tady. Náš panel se na tohleto téma podívá podrobněji s důrazem na praktickou realizaci od strategie k implementaci víceúrovňové spolupráce, která vlastně využívá i inovativní financování, inovativní řešení. Budeme společně s mými hosty hledat odpovědi na to, jak přejít od plánování k realizaci, co je k tomu potřeba. Nejenom jasná vize, ale také dostupné finanční nástroje, koordinace mezi institucemi a zapojení biznisu a akademické sféry. Ještě než se pustíme do debaty, tak se krátce podívejme i na český kontext. Řada českých měst právě aktualizuje svoje klimatické akční plány nebo se zapojuje do iniciativ, jako je Pakt starostů a primátorů. A i z pohledu Ministerstva pro místní rozvoj, které tady dneska reprezentuji, tak můžu říct, že evropské fondy v tomhle hrají klíčovou roli, ale zároveň už teď vidíme, že je potřeba flexibilnějších kombinovaných modelů a finančních nástrojů. Dotace samozřejmě zůstávají důležité, ale bez zapojení soukromých investic a dlouhodobých partnerství bude dosažení klimatických cílů jenom velmi obtížné, ne-li nemožné. Zároveň na tu pozitivní stranu vidíme rostoucí zájem o smart city řešení nejenom tady na veletrhu Urbis, ale v rámci celého území České republiky, od datových platform přes plánování energetiky až po digitální dvojčata. Ale i zde stále čelíme překážkám, jak tyhle inovace rozšiřovat, škálovat a financovat v praxi. Proto je mým velkým potěšením tady dnes uvítat na pódiu 4 řečníky, který každý představují jednu vrstvu téhleté komplexní výzvy. Prosím, přivítejte se mnou pana Jana Hanuše, generálního ředitele společnosti Enviros, experta na energetiku, ESG, evropské fondy a udržitelné financování. Pan Hanuš je také předseda Komise pro finanční nástroje a veřejnou podporu při České bankovní asociaci. Dále mi prosím pomozte přivítat Elenu Simion, která je expertka na mezinárodní projekty v rumunské agentuře pro financování vysokého školství, výzkumu a inovacích. A paní Simion je také koordinátorka evropského projektu Capacities, zaměřeného na podporu klimaticky neutrálních měst. Dále jsem ráda, že se k nám připojila paní Branka Knežević, zástupkyně vedoucí odboru územního plánování a udržitelného rozvoje města Podgorica. Paní Knežević má bohatou zkušenost s projekty financovanými z Evropské unie, které jsou zaměřené na klimatickou neutralitu a životní prostředí. A v neposlední řadě bych tady ráda přivítala pana Alexandra Langa, vedoucího sekce pro Smart City a digitální plánování města Mnichov, kde mimo jiné vede integrované programy zaměřené na udržitelný rozvoj a digitální transformaci města. Tak za mnou už vidíte QR kód. V průběhu diskuze můžete přes aplikaci pokládat otázky, na které bude část závěrečné části panelu. A zároveň, protože mí hosté jsou převážně zahraniční, tak si dovolím tady přejít do anglického jazyka pro zbytek diskuze. So, dear guests, welcome once again, and thank you for accepting our invitation to this panel discussion. And let's start straight away by looking at the strategic landscape and the crucial aspect of funding. And by that, I would like to use this opportunity, having here Mr. Hanuš from Enviros. Jan, as chairman of the Commission for Financial Instruments and Public Support at the Czech Banking Association, how do you actively contribute to shaping national strategies for green finance?
Does it work? Yes. So hello again. I would say that the banks and their subsidiaries that are gathered under the umbrella of Czech Banking Association would like to do more in this area. I would say because we think that we, let's say, accumulate interesting input from the market. We see what is happening in the private sector, we see what is happening in the public sector. Both sectors are financed by the banks, so we believe that we can bring some valuable insights. But on the other hand, we don't feel that let's say the national level is always listening, or maybe listening enough. I'm sorry to say it. I hope you will not kick me out from the panel.
It's a discussion. Go ahead.
It's my first sentence, and already I am on the villain. Just frankly, I think that there is a big gap between the state on one hand and its strategies, and between the private sector. And if any strategy, including the, let's say, climate adaptation should work, I think that it must necessarily be designed by both sides in parallel from the very beginning, not, let's say, some soft touch at the end when the strategy is ready. So, but not, I don't want to be so negative, so maybe some positives. One example, we are now working with the Ministry of Environment, the Environmental Fund, on a new financial instrument that should provide guarantees for private companies to invest into recycling and circular technologies. So far it was financed by subsidies, direct subsidies. Now it should be a new financial instrument, and I must say that we can feel really high enthusiasm from the fund to really design something that is effective, efficient, and we believe it will work in practice.
Okay, you already mentioned that you definitely see a great room for involvement Czech banks in financing urban climate neutrality projects or strategies. What is needed for that to bridge the gap which you mentioned?
Well, I think there is a big distrust, and I think it's cultural. I don't know, but if we can, let's say, overcome this gap between these two sectors, then we can be much more efficient, really. I will give you one example. We all remember, unfortunately, COVID. There was one example where the state and the private sector banks were able to design and put into work a new guarantee program called COVID-3, which really saved the situation in the beginning of COVID, where everything was closed from the, one day to the next. Nobody knew what will happen, and there was commitment on both sides. There was the, let's say, political courage to do something, and within 6-8 months, we had a new guarantee program that really saved the liquidity in the economy. And by the way, it was the biggest and the most successful guarantee program ever done in the Czech Republic. So it can happen, but there is really there must be the need and the commitment on both sides to do it. I believe that the commitment is on the, let's say, side of the banks, and I hope we will see more of it on the side of the state.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the catchword political courage, which is needed in promoting more innovative or other than just funding funds as financing opportunities. Given your background in EU funds and banking, going now more on a more detailed level, what are potential pitfalls when combining different sources of funding? Because when we speak of large strategy or large-scale urban climate neutrality projects, you definitely need multi-source financing and different sources of funding and combinations. So, what are the specifics and pitfalls of their combinations?
Well, large infrastructure projects usually take a lot of time. The timeline usually exceeds the electoral period, so it really needs some political courage, let's say, to do it. I'm very glad that we can see that on the municipal level, it's possible to do such projects, and they are, being realized. Yes. And I believe that most of the schemes are already there. Municipalities are top-tier clients. They have no problem to receive private loans. Subsidy programs are more or less there. What I can see as a let's say, as a differentiating factor is how to, let's say, de-risk or, let's say, lower the entry barrier to do these projects and provide some technical assistance in the early stage of the projects, where you need some data, some analysis to decide, is it feasible, is it not, is it bankable, is it not? And in this respect, we are very glad that there is the program ELINA, funded by the European Investment Bank, which provides 90% subsidy for this technical analysis, unfortunately only on energy efficient projects, but for me this is the way how to encourage municipalities but also the private sector to think about projects, the difficult and long-term projects that could bring some added value to the region or to the company and increase its competitiveness, I would say. So this is a way how to do it from my point of view.
And as for Enviros, weren't you thinking of establishing, or for example with European Investment Bank or other partners, some similar scheme to go beyond energy efficiency?
Komerční banka is one of the two entities in the Czech Republic who distribute ELINA grant from EIB these days. The second one is the National Development Bank. So we focus on this now, and it seems that it brings results. For example, it helps, and we have already several projects in the pipeline, so-called energy performance contracting projects, which help usually to do big energy efficient projects. Not far from here, there is the hospital of Svatá Anna, where such project is being realized. It brings enormous savings, financial savings on energy. And just for you to understand, sorry, the energy performance contracting means that technical assistant gives you the calculation, what you can do, what you can say, what measures you can take. Another specialized company do the projects, they finance it themselves, and you then repay the investments from the savings you make on these measures. So this is again something that helps, and ELINA again lowers the barrier for you to decide whether to go for it or not. So,
okay, thank you. And speaking of multi-source financing, I'd like to turn to Elena. As coordinator of the Horizon Europe project Capacities, which involves over 60 partners across 15 countries, which is impressive, I must say. So how is the issue of multi-source financing addressed at the level of partner cities, which you happen to know from the project?
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me here. And you know that now Capacities, which is this European network of national platforms supporting the cities mission and the cities that are engaged towards reaching climate neutrality, has now extended its coverage to the entire Europe. And the ministry and your team is now part of this network. It goes differently in each country. We have successful examples in Sweden, Spain, Austria, France is starting, where the topic of multi-financing or multi-source financing is being discussed and tackled very differently. For an example, in Sweden, there are 8 agencies that put together different funding sources, environmental, energy, water. It depends on the profile of the agency, and they fund together in joint funding schemes their cities. And it's not only about the cities that are part of this EU mission with 112 cities, Podgorica one of them. It's about more cities that they tend to reach to. So it goes differently. Then I can talk about the Romanian example where, we started with capacities and we became successful in Europe with capacities. We brought together different resources. We have national funding, but also not necessarily European, but money out of the EEA and Norway grants for those who are familiar with the scheme. So we used different resources to fund the cities. Of course, I will go deeper later in the process itself. It's not easy. Maybe because we have a bank representative here. This is a challenge at the level of the entire Europe, at least in what concerns the cities. It's not easy to join funding schemes with national money, regional money, and the bank or the commercial money. That's very challenging, and I'm sure the cities know more about this. At national level, with these national platforms, hubs, whatever we call them, in different countries, different names, the main purpose is to bring together these different sources. That can be energy efficiency again, it can be green transition, it can be whatever the country has to help the cities. We talk about this quite a lot, and what we provide through capacities at least is bringing different countries together, different actors together to see how it went in some countries, if there is any progress. But it is a challenge, so we dream big, but it's not happening. It's happening in very few countries. That's the reality.
Yeah, thank you so much. And my next question would go to Branka. You have also extensive experience in managing EU-funded projects focused on environmental protection and climate adaptation. So how challenging is it for a city the size of Podgorica to acquire and effectively utilize multi-source funding?
Thank you, and hello. It's great to be in Brno and to participate in this panel. It is challenging, but it's also challenging to quantify how challenging that challenge is. City by itself is complex organism, let's call it like that, with number of competencies, with number of departments, with number of possibilities and responsibilities. There are a number of funding sources that are focused on cities more and more, because the role of the cities is becoming more and more recognized as crucial in most of the process, climate change is included, which is good. There are numbers of sources, but it's not always that they recognize profoundly our needs maybe, and so we need to adjust them to our possibilities, to our budgeting. They are not always aligned among themselves, you know, and it's not recommendable or popular, however, to refuse when something is offered to you, but it's not, we cannot accept everything just because it is offered, so it takes sometimes diplomacy. On the other hand, because there are a number of possibilities, it needs to be tracked, they need to be recognized. In that regard, we need more people, literally, in terms of numbers. We do have excellent quality when it comes to human resources, but we need more people who would deal only with these possibilities and who would recognize possibilities for for funding, to combine this funding, to connect these sources of funding and to use them in way for them to be efficiently used and implemented.
It's so much relatable to the Czech Republic, all what you say. What would you say are the biggest challenges in coordinating with various grant schemes and funds, which you mentioned already?
Yeah, as I already said, cities are specific. It's everyday work. It's work on the field. You know, the job that we already have. We need practical support. It is it is necessary to develop action plans, strategies, strategic documents, because they are basis for attracting more funds when you have officially recognized activities that need to be funded. We need more practical support in terms of support for implementation of already recognized activities. You know, a consultancy is also very welcomed because, as I said, even though there are sometimes some perspective that administration is overcrowded, it's not. We do need more people. So in that regard, that kind of consultancy is very welcome, but from someone who is familiar with our needs, who will help us profoundly and practically to develop activities, and later on activities adjusted to our needs, and later on to implement it with the best possible results. Cities are practical in their work.
Yes, indeed, and thank you for these insights. Alexander, in Munich, you lead the Smart City and Digital Urban Development Planning Division. So how is ensured the financing of such complex and long-term digital and climate initiatives?
Mostly, first of all, thank you for the invitation to talk about this topic. As what we recognize is that mostly the people in the government and outside are thinking in silos. And that's a real problem to coordinate and to enforce several programs. We started 15 years ago with a climate adaptation and mitigation program. And first of all, everybody in the room thinks about his own problems. Not recognizing that most of the problems are combining, or it's necessary to combine them to find good solutions, and not talking about strategies, but to come in a doing on these topics. So mostly we are first financed by the city administration, but we very early begin to think about projects in the context of climate mitigation, smart cities, to integrate topics not at that time, not really addressed to the topic of climate change. Because a lot of people do not think about digitalization, people do not think about what have to be integrated in the field of housing, besides these obvious things. And it's a point of investment. And the collaboration of financing these things is to get in a cooperation with private actors, housing companies, to get in with suppliers in the mobility sector, because you have to combine these measures to become really the point that it's economically effective. So if you're not could address those people with their needs and interests, it's very hard to get a long-term financing. And what you need is a long-term drive. It doesn't realize it in 1 or 2, 3 years to come to a real measures which have an impact on the city. It's a long-term work because you have to integrate step by step more private companies. What we're doing is also integrate science in these corporations. And in this case, funding is an initiative to produce cooperation. It's not the fact that it finances at the end the measures, but it's an initiative to bring all those organizations together. And that was the great success of projects like Smarter Together and so on, to bring all those people together and think about the same measures in a neighborhood area, in greater areas in Munich, in cooperation with region. So that might be the greatest challenge, to bring those people in the first step together. And you have to make a decision on measures. You can't start at every end of the city. And that makes it not so easy, because those people coming off of mobility are only thinking, oh, my mobility problems should be solved. The next one says, oh, all those houses should be renovated. That's the first step we have to do. So it helps if you have private companies. It helps if you have the science on to make a strategy and a plan, an action plan, which combines that. And so it can go on a long run.
Yeah, perfect. So let's shift indeed now our focus on particularly on the role of the private sector and of the academia in driving the green and transition. And I'd like to stay with you, Alexander, still for for a while, just developing on what you've just said. Could you develop more on how is cooperation with the business sector, such as technology providers or data companies, and with the academia? How is it used in the projects which you mentioned, such as Smart Together or the Connected Urban Twins, which you are part of as well?
Yeah. First of all, we have some long-term strategies which we have turned a little bit more in climate mitigation. Long years, especially the housing sector in Munich, was focused on building houses, not depending on a certain level of quality. It's a mass problem. So what we are changing is to integrate the local companies in a process of cooperation, which they bring in their normal measures. And we do in Smarter Together that we try to finance on top new development, and that works. What we also do in Smarter Together was combining especially digital solutions and private companies. So it's not so that the government develops those digital solutions, so we gave it to the companies, but with the measures we want to have to be solved. What we established some years later is a competition on innovations, where we give also our problems in process, and the competition is between startups and private companies and universities to solve governmental problems, not by ourselves. We give in the challenge. So we had the start is the first 3 years you're thinking about and say, oh, nothing happens. Nobody wants to work with us. You have also to be on a long run there, but now we have this year about 30 companies and 20 startups in this competition. So they deliver for us good solutions, and that makes it easier for us to be. We do not have the resources for these solutions, and we try to get it in an impact for us. As well, we have long-term finance programs, as living in Munich or housing in Munich or so on, which are always focused that they are not only financed by the government. They are always in a cooperation which defines which measures should be financed and organized by one of the partners. And that's very, very important. In the CUT project, it's very different. This is a governmental project. So, because what we see is that we have to go on the next level and by using this program on digitalization, which meant that we had to do our duties first to come in cooperation. This is the step we are now going at the end of the program.
And just building on what you've just said about the involvement of private sector and the competition within private sector and academia, speaking for or thinking of private sector, could you say just what returns can they expect, for example, in the digital twin technologies? What is how to lure them into cooperation with the city?
First of all, a lot of people do not understand what a digital twin is. It's because what we're thinking is, what we're thinking out of use cases, also in the digital twin. And a lot of these use cases coming out of the debate on the climate change. And depending on that, we have three aspects we are always talking, especially also with the science community and with all the companies, is we have a level of data, we have a level of processes, and we have a level of applications. And only coming out of this combination, we get solutions where we want to not go in a vendor lock-in. It's a priority for us because we address solutions and measures which open a market for many companies offering us solutions, applications on what our processes need and what the data is defined, especially out of our needs. So what we're doing before a long time is we developed applications and had a big amount of financing problems to get to the next step of these applications. Because we are not thinking enough about the process we want to solve with it. So what is the duties on the several partners are very different. And I don't think that we are the partner to develop the applications. That's not necessary. What we have to do is to address what are the duties we want to solve with, what are the processes we have, and which part of the data can we deliver. And so all the companies around us or the science community can develop applications. It's a new setting and that works.
Thank you so much. And Branka, now to Podgorica. Podgorica is actively involved in the Raptor program of EIT Urban Mobility, who are present at this Urbis fair as well, by the way. And the program supports rapid development and implementation of innovative urban mobility solutions. So in this case, how is the private sector, such as startups or technology companies, how are they involved in solving urban challenges within this program?
Oh yeah, we are so happy to be in this year's Raptor program because it's really useful for us and it's really practical. I already mentioned that private sector is directly involved in terms that startups and companies were invited to provide solution for cities' challenges. Our challenge was related to pressures coming from the traffic because we have significant pressures in one rapidly developing city as Podgorica is, and we like to use cars to the significant extent. And we are happy that our challenge was recognized. A number of startups and companies applied and offered really interesting solutions. Of course, not all solutions could be chosen, but within communication with the startups and companies that applied, we somehow recognized additionally each other because they were not completely familiar with local administration, and of course we needed their feedback. So that is one of particularly valuable aspects of Raptor program. We are starting with the implementation of this project during this year. It will be a pilot project tracking CO2 emissions coming from traffic and counting traffic in Podgorica. Companies were mostly from abroad, but there were also few companies from Montenegro, which we did not know that do exist and that they deal with these kind of issues, which is again something that is really valuable, even though those companies were not chosen. in this process, but we have additional future possible partners to jointly develop a solution, not only in this, but in other similar areas.
Yeah, that sounds really great. However, I'd like to ask, I mean, you're at the beginning of this pilot project, but nevertheless, many projects end after the initial funding ends. So what are your plans for the sustainability, especially as you identified very many potential future partners?
When we were developing this idea and applying for Raptor, we insisted on activity that will show us something concrete in field, you know, that will provide us with concrete data that will serve us as a basis for further development of further activities that we need to deal with this and other challenges. And that is something that will provide us, let's say, reasons or justification, whatever, to finance further activities, to work further on this project by our own means. You know that highest level of governance sometimes need to be to convince them that it is worth investing, and this is the case with Raptor, and also to have concrete data for additional financing to say, see, we did this provided us with concrete data, because Raptor will provide us not only with data but with possible solution, how to decrease level of emissions, and how to invite people to use more public transport, not only to rely on individual cars. So these are all from our perspective enough, let's say, arguments to attract additional financing for this kind of project, and not only to develop the very project further.
Great, thank you so much. I believe that it will be inspiring case as well for the cities who are sitting here in our audience as well. And now to Jan and to Enviros, because you mentioned that Enviros supports both public and private sector clients. So what are the most common motivations for private companies to invest specifically in greening or climate neutrality projects? And if you can also comment on barriers, which there are.
For companies, for private companies, any investment they do must make financial sense, and that hasn't changed. They always have to think about how to do things better, how to do them cheaper. But the good point is that usually now more and more there comes the third question: can we do it, let's say, in a more sustainable way? And if yes, does it change our response to those first two questions? Yes or no? And in many cases, due to the, let's say, technological state of the technological development, to price reasons, it's just not possible to really do some significant shift forward. On the other hand, even though the Green Deal was not very well communicated within the EU, especially in the Czech Republic, there is I would say, still very strong resistance and not strong support from the government. On the business level, especially in some sectors like automotive, you know, the motivation is already there, and thinking about sustainability became part of their, let's say, investment or financial decisions. So this is, for me, this is the most important point, and some, let's say, some step forward. In terms of, let's say, projects, usually where it works very well is the energy area, energy efficiency. There might be some, let's say, projects that have long return on the investment, but because they bring some financial savings, usually it's relatively easy for the companies to, you know, to include them in their investment plan and to convince the financial director of the company, you know, to do it, or at least to do it to some extent. Again, we spoke about ELINA grant. even here, let's say the analytical phase and let's say the calculations, what will be the financial advantage of doing such project, it helps to motivate the companies to do it, because they don't have to invest really in the beginning for, let's say, for the analysis. And in many cases, there could be some solutions how to do the projects, or how to support, let's say, them in doing the project, and that's a way how to do it again. So it pays, for me, the same to the public sector as well as to the private sector, that we need some tools how to encourage, the entities to think about it and show them that it can be done, and what will be the let's say, added value of the project for them.
Maybe also on the side of the public sector, because as you mentioned, the green transition quite often gets a rather negative label in the Czech Republic. So do you have any suggestions of how to overcome this? It's a tricky question.
Yeah, Komerční banka is doing a survey, public survey, yearly, and they have been doing this for quite some time, and it consistently shows that let's say the only way where let's say the reluctant public, if I can say this way, the companies, where they really can agree on something is, on projects that really make some sense. They are sustainable and they make some financial sense. So really energy savings, or some, let's say, operational savings, some innovations that bring some, let's say, sustainable advantage. This is what can be done, and this is what motivates them to think about other projects. If it's only, let's say, being pushed and let's say, without any let's say, explanations, and showing them that sustainable projects can make sense financially or, let's say, operationally, then it's not possible, I would say, to convince anybody. So finding solutions, as we say in Czech, solutions that are rational, selský rozum. This is what we need to find, and this is where it when then you can see the agreement and understanding that these projects really make sense.
Moving to Romania, Elena, and still following this line of discussion, the M100 platform, which is a Romanian platform of sort of following up on the European missions, Mission 100 climate neutral cities. You played a key role in M100 platform, and it supports the alignment of local strategies with European climate goals, and it also facilitates knowledge exchange, which we've heard that it's really, really important for sure. So how does this platform facilitate knowledge exchange, not only between the cities and ministries, but also with the business sector and research institutions?
Thank you for bringing the topic up, because we're really proud about this initiative of ours. It's Mirror Mission Cities Hub Romania, as its own name is saying, following up the EU Cities Mission model. So we have here a true model of multi-level cooperation, because we have a coordination committee formed of 6 ministries that committed to bring in funds to support the cities that are engaged in this climate neutral path. Then we have the 3 cities that are part of the mission as part of the hub. So the local voice is part of any strategic discussion that is happening. Then we did the next step and brought in 10 additional cities. After a call, after a caravan, after a lot of activities, that happened really fast. So I think in half a year we succeeded to bring in 10 additional cities that work following the same European model, so the Climate City Contract. There, and I guess those engaged know that, you have a form or an engagement model to cooperate with stakeholders. So somehow we ensured that all these 13 cities are capable of engaging their local communities and local stakeholders, being business, being academia, being civil society. So they can work together following a model that at the same time gives them a voice in Europe, because the other 10 cities will be able to stay with other cities to sit at the same table and have a common voice, at least on the process, because each city, each region, each country has a known specific. We do, so that's on the organizational side, on multi-level governance, the big word. But at the same time, we take advantage of this capacities network quite a lot. We have different situations in each country, so we bring together Romanian cities with other cities from other countries to exchange on, I don't know, it can be green procurement or stakeholder engagement. It's very different. And we also use the solution contest for an example. So we try to support the best we can, but us as a funding agency, research and innovation funding agency, do the facilitation. We don't particularly engage in each process. We just facilitate these support measures for our cities. So I think that's encouraging at national, local level, but also bringing all this experience at European level, and it's happening in less than a year, I think.
And could you maybe develop more on the role of the academia in all this, because we haven't touched that much this academic sector as yet, and there is also a question coming from the audience that we talked about the important role of the academic sector, and if we have any experience how to help the academia in this regard. So maybe Elena, if you can address this question as well.
I can from both perspectives. So from the European level, we have the experience of Spain and Sweden, which have these sort of national support structures or platforms, how we call them, and they started academia-led. So in Sweden is KTH, which is a technology institute that started this drive and vibe for the cities. That's one example. And the second one is Spain with CTS 2030, also started by academia. So they really went to the cities, talked to the cities, and then went to the ministries to talk to them. How do we work together to support the cities? In Romania, yeah, we are a funding agency, research and innovation, that's clear. Everything started with us. That's how the platform formed there. Then again, coming back to these climate city contracts and different areas that need to be covered there with, and I assume you know more, with monitoring data and bringing in different indicators, the academia in Romania, different universities got involved in the work with the cities. So they supported the cities literally measuring and counting for them and helping them to put together this European tool, whatever it is. So it's a work that goes well in different cities. It's how the research supports the cities in their work. And this is not the only thing. They also get together with them in different projects, European projects or national funded projects. So it's really I think it may be, at least in the case of Romania, a traditional way of cooperating that's going ahead. But in some other countries, it was just started from this academia, let's say, part. So getting close to the city, academia is also part of a city one way or another.
Perfect. And a similar question to Munich, Alexander. You also mentioned that you involve in your innovative projects both business sector and academia. Could you elaborate more on the academic involvement, on their role and engagement?
Yeah. First of all, we have several cooperations on study projects with students, which very often is a start of cooperation because they are interested having concrete problems for the students Outcoming of this, we have also those cooperations in funded programs, because very often the academic part is an initiative to come to us because they need a living lab, as was talking some minutes ago in another station here, because they need concrete situations for the academic research. And so we're going in contact, and very often the situation is for us very good because they are thinking about problems we do not have any resources for, which is a very fine situation for us. But on the other hand, we are going with our problems in these corporations, bringing our topics to them, and what we try to have is a long-term cooperation, not on only one project, where very often we have the same academic stuff in different projects. So there's a good relationship and a knowledge of how each part works in this process. And it also is corresponding to those several levels of funding. In Germany, we have as well a federal organization, so we have one more level, very often in discussion with governmental areas and responsibilities. What is not so good, what is good working is with the EU funding in cooperation with academic. What was not so often addressed is on the national level, because it's very enterprise-oriented, but in many problems, especially when we are thinking about 100 climate-neutral and smart cities, we address both topics because we think we are not going to have solution only addressing the climate topic. We have not that big support we wanted to have in Germany. It's in very many countries. We often think we get a better support from Brussels because they accept that we need new solutions, and the new solutions very often coming out of the academic area. That makes it easier for us. We accept that they had their role and we have our role in this combination. And I think the great problem of the academic part is they need more than we need the financing out of funding. So that is why we take the money from the banks and in the private sector. That's okay, but very often the academic part has more problems to get funding out of this area, so they need really the governmental funding. And that's part of the cooperation.
Professor, I see that like multi-level, including the EU level, is super important in this respect, and it relates to our country as well. To conclude slowly, let's take a last round of questions, and let's look at the future challenges and opportunities for cities in their climate transformation. Jan, according to you, what are the key factors for a successful partnership between public and private sectors, especially in the field of green finance and green transition?
As I tried to say before, I think that most of the instruments or financial instruments are more or less there. We know the solution. What we need is to find good and feasible solution for the challenges we face at the time. And for me, there is only one way how to do it, in close cooperation between the private and public sector. So especially here for the Czech Republic, I would say, let's not be afraid of talking to each other. I think there are many ways how to do a transparent and fair discussion, and usually, even from I think it maybe sounds like a cliche, but we don't do it very often, and if we do, usually you find many interesting ideas or you, I would say, think of something only by, let's say, expressing your, let's say, expectations, you know, and maybe listening to what you are saying, and you know, this simple solution can bring us really somewhere, because we don't do it, and I think that in many ways we are just repeating the same solutions. So I would say this, and I think some of you mentioned climate adaptation plans. If we are speaking about solutions for let's say, climate adaptation, preparing such plan is kind of, let's say, dialogue with your surroundings, let's say, from the perspective of the city, of course, with the stakeholders, with the companies, and it's clear and transparent process which brings and can bring really viable and practical results, plan, solutions, measures you can take, and you can do something valid for the city and for the, let's say, region you take care of. So that would be it. But I don't expect much, I would say, in this area, but I still hope.
Yeah, it's very much also on the level of strategic planning as such, and how the strategies and climate plans are prepared, that the very involvement of different kinds of stakeholders is crucial at the very onset of strategic planning, which is unfortunately not so common so far, but I hope that also with the help of this panel and our other activities, there will be improvement in sight in the future. Speaking of sustainability or scalability, Elena, my question next one would be to you. I've already asked Branka about the sustainability of a pilot project. So if you look at your large-scale international activities like capacities, so how do you see there the sustainability and scalability, especially of climate neutrality projects, which are sort of generated by these?
I mean, the hope we had when we started the project and expanded to the entire Europe was to really be scalable, right? to be able to share the successful models that we have so far in a few countries. Not too many, but at least 8 have started to have these national support groups, national, regional, depending on the profile of the country. So once we started this May to expand to the entire Europe, the idea is to get the knowledge, at least, if not the experience itself, in each country of Europe. Concretely, the idea that the national or regional support is to stand there after the project is ending. We have 2 more years, but once we have succeeded to coagulate or to form a cooperation group at national level, that should continue, because if we have now, going back to Romania, 13 cities, we won't leave them after the project is ending, right? I mean, we have a whole line of cooperation there. We have promised funds, we have promised exchanges, we have already set up a lot of relationships with other European cities or support organizations. So that's something that makes things stand or resist after, or be resilient. What's the beautiful word today? Or it is like that. It should be like that. Once you start the work in your country, you cannot leave it after a project has ended. So that's the hope. Follow us for 2 more years and let's see where we get. But if half of the countries succeed to keep their national platforms formed out of capacities, I think it's a great success anyway.
So I sincerely hope that the Czech Republic will be in the positive half, establishing and keeping the platform even after the project ends. And Branka, to Podgorica. Your Podgorica is one of the 112 EU mission cities. So how do you plan to further develop your role beyond the EU mission cities by 2030?
Well, our participation in the mission is, I think, great example for us, at least, a confirmation of everything that we heard in this last round from the colleagues, how important is that cooperation through, apart from being additionally recognized as a respectable partner in international context, as a member of number of international projects, initiatives and so on, through participation in the mission, we strengthened our internal cooperation in the city within different departments. We need to, of course, cooperate, but this subject brought us even closer. And also we established or expanded existing or established new cooperations with academia, which is really important for us, this scientific approach, let's say, with state authorities that we already by law have cooperation, but this is added value for us and for them also to somehow recognize each other in a new context, not completely new, but and also with private sector. So being capital city of Montenegro and acquiring this experience within a mission, and additionally somehow see additionally our existing capacities and strengthening them through the participation in the mission. It's somehow expected from us to be a leader in Montenegro in this area and to be carrier of novelties and to invite other cities to additionally see somehow how important they are and how many mechanisms they actually have to achieve great results in this area. We already have excellent partner. It's really important for Podgorica to mention partners UNDP, GIZ in international context, but also our own, let's say, national mechanism. This is Union of Municipalities, which gathers all municipalities and provide excellent support and participation and introduce us also with existing initiatives. So we are for sure going to use this platform additionally in the context of participation in the mission to spread the knowledge about the mission and information, and as I said, to invite other cities to apply more to introduce them more with existing possibilities, and to, of course, to implement jointly activities in this area.
It's definitely a very challenging role which you have, but in a very positive sense.
That's expected from the capital city, I guess, and we have excellent partners. Being smaller municipality does not mean that they do have smaller capacities. On the contrary, it's just necessary to maybe to become more aware of their own strength and qualities.
Yeah, and speaking of the future, Alexander, we very much or very often look up to Munich as a leader in smart city solution and their implementation. So what are the big bets for Munich in smart city development and climate action, especially what is the role of international cooperation in this context?
We have several next steps, because also our program cut is ending this year, so we're thinking about 1 year before now how it will be followed up. We are now starting our process in the 100 climate neutral and smart city process in the city. So there are different situations combined at this time. What we want to do is to foster our cooperation with the national level, with other cities coming out, our modal project Smart City program from the federal state. We want to enforce there some cooperation. We have an international part of this program connecting in Europe, so we are fostering also these cooperations with several cities, and we are also interested to have more cooperations with other cities, because we think if we want to change something in Europe in this way, we have to have strong cities and a strong city cooperation, because it comes from the municipality level, what will be going on with the measures, not on the supranational level. This is one part. We want to get more replication together with other cities. We have a lot of solutions made first time, but they have to be replicated, to test them, to improve them in the next step. And that doesn't work only when Munich does it on itself. Very often you get better solutions in cooperation. So we have some international cooperations coming out of our EU projects, and we're going on with this. It means listening and learning from others. I think it's if you want to succeed in this field, you have to be really open-minded, not by texting, but really open-minded on solutions from other cities and other regions. And that's also the way, because we are going on these fairs all around Europe, because we want to listen what other ones do, not to think we have still found all this. And one step again, what we are doing is national and international standards in this field. We are part of a project in Germany about digital twins standardization, because standards mean you get in a better cooperation situation with other cities and companies, because you're debating on a fixed level to get the next level. So standards will be one of the topics in the next 2 to 3 years in this field to establish a cooperation.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for this. Thank you to all for this rich and thought-provoking discussion. As we don't have any questions from the audience through the app, before we close, I'd like to turn to each of you. For a final reflection, the question is very simple, but it's also very important. What is one concrete action that cities or their partners could take tomorrow to strengthen cross-sector collaboration? And please keep the answers short, action-oriented, and just one clear message we can all take home with us. Branka, please.
Concrete, all ministries, ministers and mayor to sign and implement thoroughly agreement according to which they would use on a daily basis for work-related activities, public transport and bikes.
Also concrete and already applied, bringing everyone together to celebrate what was achieved already. So we're doing that for 2 years, and it's working, and that's increasing also the basis of stakeholders. Of course, celebrated with a conference, but still, just bring people together.
I will repeat myself, sorry. Do your climate adaptation plan, do your local energy strategy, do any document like this, and do it now. And communicate with your partners, with private sector, namely, I would say.
Very complicated after 3 persons. I think the major step we can do every day and we can do tomorrow, use your corporations you still have, and get out of your silo thinking. That could start it every day.
Thank you. I could definitely subscribe all of your answers. So just to sum up briefly, what we've heard today is that indeed reaching climate neutrality or just going through this green transition, it is indeed a shared mission, and we can only achieve it through strategic partnership, not at the end at some point, but from the very beginning of project preparation, of strategic planning in this respect. And yes, strategic partnerships are indeed needed. We have discussed quite a lot the role of private sector, the role of business sector, but also the role of academia. And I would say, because we take it as obvious, that also the cooperation between different layers of governance is definitely needed. And of course, so as a financial institution, which is sometimes not stressed enough, I would say. So I'm also happy that our panel could sort of bridge or try to bridge this gap, at least within these 75 minutes which we had allocated. And I'm looking forward that we'll manage to continue with this debate and with some practical solutions also in the future, so as not to stay at the debate, but really have some tangible things to discuss and propose and implement in our policies. Again, speaking for me as a representative of Ministry of Regional Development and its urban policy unit. Well, we've heard that the plans are super important, but it's not only about plans. It's about making those plans bankable, scalable, and future-proof. And again, also here, I would say this scalability is quite a challenge we'll all be facing in the future as well. So maybe next year. All right, next year. Right. So that's a subtle sign that we should be ending. Also, 1 minute is still here signal that we're ending. Okay, so thank you to our excellent panelists. Thank you indeed for your really well thought answers to my questions. Thank you all in the audience, and I'm looking forward to other discussions during Urbis and during Urbis 2026. Thank you once again.